Hi, I'm James. I run a tech consultancy making beautiful software with a real focus on AI and IoT. This is Off Script. It's a podcast where me and Josh share unfiltered conversations on building, leading, and learning in today's tech world. And I'll hand over to Josh to intro himself.
Thanks, James. I'm Josh, CTO at Genio and software consultant of over 20.
And today we're joined by Jon Milsom from PitchHero, and we're talking all about AI. So, Jon, do you want to give the listeners a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, sure. So CTO at PitchHero, we operate a software as a service platform for sports clubs and a wearable GPS tracker for individuals and teams. So I head up the tech team here, and we've been doing this for a long time. So we started the business fresh out of university, so 2007, 2008. So we've been in the game for a while. And yeah, just a super exciting time for us at the moment. So I think everybody's come back from the Christmas break, having done loads of AI stuff and read all about it. And it feels like we've just got over this, the kind of hurdle, the threshold perhaps, where it makes it all usable for most people. And that's really, really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that tipping point over Christmas, a lot of people really had to push AI uphill to get it to do the things that you wanted it to do. And now you can literally chuck it a screenshot, sit back, and it's not far off, is it? It's a bit of a step change. Is that what your engineers have felt? Does everyone feel the same way at PitchHero, or still some holdouts?
Yeah, there was certainly some apprehension kind of last year, and we've probably followed a similar journey that most people have. So doing bits and bobs, single blocks of code, single functions replaced, writing some unit tests, and everybody got pretty comfortable with that kind of back end of last year. But what's really changed over Christmas is the kind of agentic use and just giving an agent some stuff to do with a broader remit, and it actually being capable, which is kind of mind blowing, right? You know, if you think about the learning journey from back in the day, I started as a solo developer on this project, and even Google wasn't great because there just wasn't that much stuff out there. Stack Overflow didn't kick in till 2010, 2011 maybe.
Yeah.
Frameworks were a new thing.
Yeah.
I looked at the dates
buy a book, didn't you?
Yeah,
exactly. HTML,
I literally
CSS book.
I have the is it Works or Rocks book series, PHP 5. I've got that behind me at home. Yes, it was a different world, right? And actually, a key thing here is not just it can write code. A key thing is access to information and learning, because it was magazines and books, wasn't it? Kind of showing our age here, guys, aren't we? So yeah, super exciting. So came back with this agentic stuff, and then like the use of MCP connections as well. So for example, we've got we use Sentry for bug tracking, and we've got the MCP connection into there. So we can literally just say, look at this bug with all of this context and tell me what you think. So yeah, I'm using it heavily. I think most people on the team are as well. People are using it in different shapes. So one really good thing we did recently was we did an AI week, and we basically said, right, there's no deadlines, there's no targets. Just choose a piece of work you think might benefit from AI. Doesn't matter if it doesn't, but the whole point is just a learning experience this week. So we did that on a Monday morning. Everybody kind of went off, did their own thing for a week, and then we came back on Friday afternoon and basically showed what we'd learned, what had gone well, what had gone badly, what we could use going forward, and things like that. So yeah, that was a great learning experience, and I think people surprised themselves with what the capability was this year versus even a month or 2 months ago. Certainly before Christmas, things have changed so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it for me, it makes me want to scratch lots of different itches. And I know, Josh, you've been playing around with lots of local tooling, but Jon, you built a scratch an itch project, which is Meeting Exec, which is a kind of like
Oh yeah,
a calendar help tool. Do you want to talk us through that?
So a little bit of context here. So my brother lives in Sydney, lives and works in Sydney with his family out there, and that's a long way away, which is obviously a challenge. But what's actually really hard is the time zones. The time zones are a nightmare, and obviously the UK has daylight savings. Sydney, that part of Australia has its own daylight savings shift as well. And so you end up with this thing where it changes throughout the year, and it's just really hard to book a time, even for a check-in, like just for like a 10, 15-minute conversation. And so I'll ring him, and sometimes he's not available. So a huge personal bugbear of mine was not being able to arrange a time or even like see a calendar view. So yeah, so I wanted to experiment with AI and what we could do. Obviously, at work at Pitchera, we've got big, mature code bases, and we take our responsibility really seriously in terms of security and data protection and things. So it wouldn't be cool or responsible for me to just like one-shot vibe code stuff, right? It's just
Yeah.
not appropriate. So it's nice to do a completely greenfield, brand new, tiny little project with a nice scope and just see what you can get out of it. And that's what it is, basically. So it helps you plan a meeting. There's like an online planner, which was really a programmatic SEO play, because basically it naturally converts to planner/London/Sydney. You can do things like that. But you can also email it, so it'll work like a PA for you. So there's no reason now for your executive assistant, Josh, to arrange meetings, or your diary manager to arrange meetings for you. You can literally just copy it in, and it'll send emails and coordinate people. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, very cool. It's nice to be able to like just take a step away from the day-to-day business stuff, because as you're right, you got to really plan and do focus PRs and get review, and it's a little bit more slow moving. But if you're doing something end to end for yourself, it's very easy to get something out. Have you found people at Pitchera are scratching their own itches with personal projects as well? Does that help their thinking with their day-to-day work as well, do you think?
Yeah. We try and do a quarterly workshop and show and tell, and people are encouraged to demo anything. So pre AI, it was things like I think one of our devs had done a chess engine or a chess decision engine or something, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. Not only really terrible at chess, but also I certainly couldn't codify all that lack of knowledge. Codify my lack of knowledge. That sounds like a career highlight, doesn't it? So that was cool. And then post AI, people are basically doing what I've just said with meeting executives. They're experimenting and doing more, sometimes visual tasks, front end tasks, and just kind of play things, because the threshold for being able to achieve something now is so low, isn't it? Like as long as there's no consequences or existing database or existing infrastructure, you really can just type in an idea and it'll pretty quickly come up with that. So across the team, we're encouraging the guys to do that, and I think everyone's enjoying it. I certainly feel more energized about this stuff than I have in years. Literally years. Like it's just exciting. I met for lunch with a friend recently. Shout out Ryan. And we used to do like little websites on MSN homepages and GeoCities back in the day. And he said, it feels like GeoCities. This is exciting. And we were literally 14, 15. And that's the kind of energy that it's bringing. So I think that alone is brilliant. I'm being very positive here. This is all upside. There's definitely some downsides to this stuff as well.
There are, but I think it's that like, the last few months I've been going to bed just thinking about like all the other issues I can scratch and the possibility of what this tech means, I think. And like you're sort of comparing it, I compared it to when I first learned Ruby on Rails, and it's sort of something like clicked in my head, and it sort of unlocked the ability to like all these creative ideas that you had the ability to ship them because it made sense to you. And I think for me, a lot of these, especially like skill creation, has just really opened up so many opportunities, and like writing a bunch of skills that can solve very specific problems for you is amazing. So I think it is. I was saying to someone, like, it's never been a more exciting time to be a CTO, I don't think. I mean, there's a lot of risks and challenges involved with it too, because expectations on a CTO style role are huge. Not only are you expected to steer the ship technically, but you're expected to input on business strategy around what AI means to the whole business and how you expect to transform it. And it's just a super exciting time, but it's very full on.
Yeah. And I guess the tricky thing is like, you don't want to be the sole like expert on what the best thing to do with AI is. You want everyone to go and off and learn themselves, don't you? Like
Exactly.
you can't lead downwards like that and go, look at this cool stuff. You want people to actually play with it, which I guess why you did that AI week, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think everyone has different personalities. Everyone has different ways of working as well, and also ways of learning. So I think it's really important for people to have their own time and space to do that. We've got some people like myself who are at work at least are very much plan mode, like 2 or 3 revisions in plan mode, get that as good as it can, and then let it go with actually, doing the development and writing the code. Other people are working in much smaller chunks. So instead of doing plan mode, they're doing a very discrete, smaller batch of work and letting it do its thing. Yeah, it's interesting, especially with the context windows getting bigger in this last month or so. We've got some pretty big code bases, and certainly AI, at least when we did AI week, was less performant and less helpful in the bigger code bases. And that was immediately apparent. That was a very obvious conclusion from AI week, that it worked great on small, tidy code bases and less well on anything with any significant amount of legacy code in there.
Yeah. Have you tried to use AI to tackle any tech debt then? Is that something that the team's now doing?
Yeah, definitely. And actually, the kind of the prerequisite step to that is actually understanding and research, and it's brilliant for that purpose. So literally saying, write me an MD file which explains this part of the system. So all 3 of us will walk around, or we could do a list if we wanted to, of known tech debt or known skeletons in the closet. And previously, some of these projects just don't hit the threshold for getting done. They're just on the backlog, and it's really frustrating, and it's annoying. And once every 6 months someone will run into it and it'll be a big problem, and it's like, yeah, I knew about that. Now you can actually do something. Like, even if you don't solve the problem, you can at least have AI research, write a document for you, and you've got that then as an asset. So then when you are ready to work on it, you can jump straight into it. What have you guys seen in regards to tech debt and things like that?
Yeah, and it's been massively helpful, especially when team members have changed. There's a client we're working on at the moment, and there was some handover sessions with somebody there that was leaving, but it was patchy at best. And AI is just amazing at filling in the gaps, like looking through PRs and the comments and the commit history, and then it's just pulling everything together and going, right, this is the timeline of things that have happened on this, and this is why it makes sense. And it's just, that would have taken so much time to pull together that you just wouldn't have bothered. And now it's, you set and forget it, you let it whir in the background, and you come back to this amazing document, and you're like, that, it just seems to be, pretty incredible. Because I remember when I was first playing with OpenAI, and all I was using it for was summarization, and it was in the beta phase. So I'd grab a load of meeting notes, and it would do an okay job at summarizing, but I could never, from that point, I could never see how good it was going to get. It seemed pretty unfathomable to me that it would be able to write code or analyze code in the way that it does now. Yeah, I think people get used to it quite quickly though, and they're like, "Oh, it's slow, or it's not as good."
Yeah. Claude being down is now the new GitHub's offline, isn't it?
Yeah, I was saying that this week. I was like, "What are we going to do?" Like, engineers are just sat there, like, "Look, I don't know how to actually do this anymore."
Couldn't possibly read this code, or God forbid, write any of my own again.
Yeah, I saw an April Fool, which was just all around someone writing code by hand. Actually, it was quite enjoyable. But I do think it's interesting because it sort of stress tests your existing infrastructure, right? Like ADRs, like architecture decision records that you might be using as part of the way you work. I think if you've been diligent enough to maybe log them for some time, I think actually that can help build even more context into the planning mode, and can help really give some context around technical decisions that might not be obvious on first pass of the code base. And I think we've got some pretty beefy areas of with the Genio code base, where we've got, audio processing libraries written in C, or we've got some sort of custom sync stuff that works with like deltas and syncing user data between different devices. And like some of that stuff historically would have been maybe a small group of people who would have maintained that and really understood the inner workings of it. And you'd be like, oh, that's Jon's thing. Like, go and ask Jon how that works. And now you can start to really build documentation that doesn't go stale because it's updated when the code base is updated, and help bringing people along that journey, I think, is a hugely powerful thing for legacy code bases.
Yeah, there's a human element to that as well, isn't there? Because that work of the key person's left, the team hasn't worked on this for 6 months. What does this code base do? Going in, it's got to be someone senior to go in, and that is hard work. That is tiring work. Like high cognitive load, building the mental model from scratch in your head is exhausting. And so to have some help with that is brilliant. And we effectively get this for free now, right? So when you're asking Claude or your AI tool of choice to write code for you, you pretty much can get it to do the documentation updates and unit tests like for free, right? In one go. So there's very little overhead and there's very little additional work. Sometimes when you'd worked out a really tricky bug and you were like tired, you might like, oh, I'll create a separate ticket for doing testing, or I'll create a separate ticket. We've all done it, right? This is the nature of humans. And that's because you're tired and you might not do it to high quality. So you do it later, and sometimes you don't do it later.
Yeah, pop a pending testing and I'll come back to that. And you never get back to it.
Yeah, exactly. So to get that for free now is incredible, isn't it? And just, reducing the amount of context the human has to load is really interesting. I think that's a really powerful benefit. The flip side is that we all now, as kind of senior engineers and technology directors and things, probably responsible for more things moving more quickly, which is hard to keep hold of, especially, I don't know if, Josh, you've got compliance and regulation requirements in your industry and things like that. I imagine that must be a difficult line to tread.
Yeah, it is. And I think this is, again, where you do lean on existing processes that were around before this, right? So you look at how you do Canary releases, you look at how you create guardrails around deployments, you look at how you do not self-healing necessarily, but sort of faster fix-forward approaches to when things go wrong in production. You're monitoring your change failure rates, you're looking at everything that's happening as part of the release process. But I do think it's harder now because the bottleneck has moved to review, right? The bottleneck around how you're shipping stuff has moved to review because code creation is so quick. And I think, you've got a decision to make. Like, you're going to lower the quality or at least let a few things sort of drip into production that you're happy to let out, or are you going to add more rigor to that process? Like, how do you solve the next problem down the chain? And we're looking at the whole SDLC, like how do we go from product discovery all the way through to like when something's live, how do we support it? Because I think just fixing that one part of the chain isn't acceptable anymore. We need to optimize the whole end-to-end process, right?
Yeah, it's the classic thing, isn't it? You unlock one bottleneck and then guess what? You've got another one. You've got another one right there waiting for you. But you're absolutely right. If you had good processes to start with, you are incredibly well positioned to take advantage of all this stuff. And I think
good
that's a
CI/CD
takeaway.
pipelines. Like, if you had all those set up nicely to begin with, you're absolutely flying. But yeah, I think companies that don't have that haven't got a system where they can deploy every branch to URL, test it. They're going to need to get that in place pretty quickly. I guess it's kind of shifting the kinds of work and skill sets you need. You don't just want those sort of like engineers that just do the work as described in front of them, the sort of ticket takers, I call them. But like, you need those people that think a slightly higher level up and could see the business problem and turn it into working software. I think you need much more well-rounded people, don't you?
Yeah, I think especially when you've got, I think the risk is, right, that you're shipping stuff in that is not easily rollbackable or not easy to sort of fix forward. So where you've got stuff that might be corrupting data or messing with things in a way that it's going to be quite difficult to restore, like, those changes in real time. It's those sort of things where you might not actually realize from a canary release that something's very broken for a little while. And it's those sort of things that I think is going to really test the stack over the next, 6 to 12 months. And that this isn't even taking into account mythos and security challenges and everything else that might be coming down the line, right?
Definitely. And then I think going back to what you were saying about a broader responsibility for engineers, ultimately, our jobs were never to write code. We wrote code as a necessary part of the process, but your job is to deliver value to customers. And that, it might be financially, it might be usability, but some form of value. So just reminding people of that end-to-end responsibility. And again, that flips into like the DevOps practices, right? So you own it end-to-end. You go research, writing the code, testing, deployment, and then guess what? You look after it in production. I think that last bit is a bit that immature organizations or people who've joined this on the cusp of vibe coding are going to possibly have some issues further down the line, because we can all get to MVP within a day, a week, worst case scenario now. But that is a completely different skill set to operating a large scale system in production with large number of users for a long time, right? Because things exist unless you consciously put work in to delete them. Yes. Looking after all this stuff, I think, will be a broader skill set. And we just need to remind everybody, it's great to have the energy. It's great to be chucking out new things, but there is a responsibility there, especially if you hold lots of data, or if you're in a, I don't know, like a healthcare or Josh education environment and things like that. There's a responsibility there we need to be aware of.
Yeah, I mean, those vibe-coded MVPs, like there's that meme, isn't there, with the Homer Simpson car with all the like alien-y sort of additions on it and stuff. It really is like that. You've got to really sort of hone it in and chop things out and make sure your dependencies make sense. It's very easy to lose sight of what's the actual business value here. Is that feature, am I attached to it because I've just vibed it, or was it a good idea? And it's that taste in what good looks like is very important, I think.
Well, it's a premium now, isn't it? That's the premium skill set, having an opinion, having taste, having 10 years of like getting it wrong and things blowing up for reasons. Building that body of knowledge is super, super valuable now. But we don't want to take the energy out of the vibe coders, because that's awesome, and we want everyone to be doing this. But there's got to be some guardrails and process behind it.
Yeah, I think this is where I think one of the reasons we originally got chatting was I was using AI to upgrade a legacy code base a while ago, and I think it blew my mind because I've gone through the pain of having to do that manually many, many times before. And I think, as you said, that opinion is formed off experience, which is probably formed off pain that you've been through. And I think maybe that's why there's a bit more appreciation from some of the sort of longer standing senior engineers, that actually what this does do to the role and what it does do to, where you can spend your energy. Because there's definitely a thing where you're more exhausted from using AI to code, I think, because you're context switching through loads of different things. You're trying to figure out where you left things off, and you're generally just a bit exhausted because of all that. But I think what it saves is that, oh my God, I upgraded a Rails code base that would have taken me at least probably a day to unpick all the dependencies, all the different API changes in different gems that were bundled. Obviously, AI just reads the change logs. It figures out the API changes. It goes and figures out where it's knackered the code. It did it in like 10 minutes. And I was like, this is where there is huge wins to be had. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of consultancies probably spinning up right now to support legacy migrations using AI and modernization in particular, right?
Yeah. Yes, super exciting and the perfect use of this new tooling. So I did exactly the same, but unlike you, Josh, I'm not fluent in writing Ruby. So I can read it and I can understand it, but it's not a natural process for me. I've spent most of my time doing infrastructure and PHP stuff, but yeah, basically did exactly the same with a legacy Ruby code base, and it was incredible.
Amazing. Yeah, huge improvement. So what else are you working on with AI, or just in general at Pitchera, I guess?
Yes, so our balance now is we've done quite a lot of work internally. And interestingly, not just within our department. So something really cool that has happened post-Christmas is that the whole business are on board with this. So my long-standing business partner, Mark, put his first PR in after Christmas, after like
Nice.
16, 17 years of working together. Dan in marketing built the entire new Pitchhero.com marketing site pretty much on his own, using Claude and Figma and a little bit of assistance from me doing the operation. This wasn't possible certainly not 12 months ago. So I think, everybody's getting on board with that. And then in addition to that, we're using AI for customer support. It's an obvious use case, but also within CRM as well. So we use HubSpot for CRM, and they're basically bringing all the data together to help our account managers and support specialists serve customers better. You'll probably seen headlines about software as a service and valuations going down and all this kind of stuff. But I think actually people have very much focused on the software element there and not on the service. And actually, the thing that justifies your monthly fee or whatever it is the service you provide. It's the value you deliver to the customer. So I think we have an opportunity not just to make things better from a tech point of view and in my department, but also across account management, support, and all this kind of stuff. And I think I think I don't know. I think there's a bit less focus on that because it sounds like an obvious use case. But at the end of the day, we all have customers who pay us money for doing a thing. So if we can serve that customer better, whether it's a technical change or it's an account manager having better information because AI has passed every support ticket in the last 5 years that the customer's been with us, then that's really good as well. So really excited across the business about what we can use this technology for.
Love that.
And for platforms like yours, it's about users being able to connect with other users. So it's not just the fact that you're hosting the service, it's the fact that people are paying each other, they've been able to share things, they can customize their themes for their football club and all that kind of stuff. And you wouldn't be able to vibe code that because, people like talking to each other and doing stuff on the platform, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think so weirdly, like we moved away from absolute customization quite early in the business. So we've always provided a templated service, but we used to give you more choice. Over the years, we've given less choice to users. So you can now add a couple of colors and a logo, and that's kind of it really on the core platform. But guess what? We invest heavily in like the best UX UI designers so that we know that what we produce is of standard and looks great, whether you're a National League football club or a small junior team. So that's another interesting thing because people could now go off and vibe code their own website, But as we know, that's not the whole service and that's not the whole game. We offer a host of enterprise tools. So that's the kind of tech stuff. I think the challenge for us now is what user-facing features do we implement that use AI? So, for example, on our GPS product, and just to give a quick overview, this is an athlete tracker with a GPS chip and an accelerometer in it. And essentially it tracks your movement on the pitch, your accels and decels. We can basically see what your training session looks like, how far you've run, how fast you've run. And if you're playing a contact sport such as rugby, if you've been hit hard. And if you have, maybe you should not do contact in training that week, things like that. But there's a huge amount of data. So our main data store for that system, we've got like billions of rows with a B, huge amounts of data, and each one's got 10 to 20 different data points on. So there's an obvious and quite exciting use case now of basically pushing some of that data into an AI tool and then getting an overview of your training session. Josh, you didn't run fast enough in the fourth quarter there. You need to up your game. All that kind of stuff. So it's about us choosing and also speaking to customers, right, and finding out what they need, but about choosing the right use case that doesn't seem like a token, slap an AI badge on it. It needs to be something that actually delivers some level of of value. But yeah, there's so many options now. So many options.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing. You know, we've definitely faced the challenge in education of like, how can we meaningfully use AI so it doesn't undermine learning? And it's very much the same across different industries, right? It's like, how do we implement this in a way that isn't just trendy, faddy, like just vomiting AI all over the UI, whacking the chatbot in there. I was really interested in what you said about the whole company becoming sort of AI enabled. We've set the ambition to become like an AI native company almost, because we want to make sure the whole company can take advantage of it. And I think we're seeing the same as you are in terms of we've previously had prototypes and wireframes and ideas mocked up, even just like scribbling stuff on whiteboards. But now you can just be like, open a PR if you're non-technical and try and describe what the change that you'd like to see in the product or the UX improvement or the support issue that we're trying to solve. And it's just a new language where you can be like, check out this PR. Like, this is how I think it should work. What do you think? You don't have to ship it, but it's just a new way to communicate almost, which is amazing.
Yes, starting a discussion, right? And again, going back to bottlenecks and working in teams, a lot of the delay in the full software delivery lifestyle is actually somebody translating their vision in a way that other people can digest and understand. And visual mock-ups are a perfect thing for this. I honestly think that sometimes a good visual mock-up will cover imperfect documentation or acceptance criteria. I think often when you show somebody a mock-up or a wireframe, they'll immediately pick holes in it. Whereas if you gave them a bullet point list of acceptance criteria, there's a lot of like brain work. There's a lot of cognition that goes into understanding the outputs there. So for example, as part of AI Week, Matt, our product manager, he was tasked with how can he optimize his role, and his obvious thing was wireframes and mock-ups, and he's found some pretty good tools that do a good kind of one-shot first hash, but then are terrible at refinements. So basically he's got to a place where he'll do like he'll do a one-off, one-shot, put that in the ticket as a screenshot, and then he'll kind of annotate it and label it up. But that'll only get better.
It will, yeah. But all these, I think it's how big a problem you're trying to solve in these sort of scenarios, right? So like with we did a hack day recently, and one of the we've got an apprentice that started recently, and he's awesome. And he's like, he didn't really know where to start with this feature, but we want to try and implement bionic reading. I don't know if you've seen bionic reading as a thing, but it's helpful for sort of dyslexic and neurodiverse learners, where it highlights the first few letters of so like the first one or two letters of every word to help, if you're dyslexic, help the rhythm of reading like make sense to your brain essentially. And in like a day, it's quite a big code base, the Genio code base. He'd basically built this thing with a little toggle, and it was almost ready to go, actually. I'm not sure why we haven't shipped it yet, but like that is an example where you're just like, it's a really small focus part of the code base. It's not touching everything, but it allows you to really rapidly demonstrate what your idea is, but probably actually then see it out the door. And yeah, I think the Figma stuff and the sort of the design stuff is only going to get better. You're seeing these MCP sort of connections really starting to pay off now, aren't you?
How empowering as well for that apprentice.
He was just
individual.
Like,
what an experience.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
he felt like a part of the team on day one, like crazy.
Yeah, exactly. When it gets into production, what a celebration and what a thing for his CV going forward as well.
Yeah, I guess the only slight challenge is that then it breeds potential like overconfidence in the early stages, because you're like, this is easy, I can do this. But I think we've all had that part of the process, even when AI wasn't a thing, where we're like, I'm amazing at coding. Oh my God, I don't know anything.
Yeah, the highest highs and then full imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Is anyone worried about the potential cost adjustment once they start pricing this, how much it actually costs? Because I'm really loving my Claude Max plan at the moment, and that's hiding what probably would be thousands of dollars worth of API token usage. Is that a concern, or are we hoping that they manage to figure that out before they have to crank the price of it?
It'll just end up being priced into your decision making, right? So if you choose to hire a human or choose to hire a contractor, then you're making a pricing decision either way. So it'll maybe just slightly increased the threshold on what you're happy to invest in again, but it's gonna be, it's gonna be small increments compared to the gain that we've seen and the acceleration given due to the gain. I think it'll be worth it, but yeah, it depends, Ria. I think you'd have a higher bill than me at the moment.
It definitely will, for sure. I do wonder though, like, it's just like GitHub, like it's another no-brainer that you just have to have as part of your stack. But I do think there's going to be a painful thing where they start charging a lot more for it at some point. But I do think it'll also drive decentralization. It'll drive more choice into the ecosystem. People will be looking at maybe their own ways to roll out that tool chain. I guess it's why the importance of an agnostic approach is sort of there, how you document things, how you can make it portable.
Maybe that's not a bad thing for quality and good use of the tokens, though, actually. So, quality in what you choose to work on and what you put out there, but also good use of the AI. So using plan mode and getting it to write an MD file so that the next time it comes back to it, it uses less context. Little things like that will probably get better at. I think Claude are actually moving towards that. I heard a podcast with, I think it was the founder of Claude Code with the A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz guys.
Yes.
And he was basically suggesting that that's where it's going. So instead of you saying plan mode or accept all edits, it will intelligently decide based on the scope and what context it already has and things like that. Every time I open my Claude desktop app, there's a new update with some kind of refinement in there. So I think they're getting there pretty quick.
Yeah, it changes so quickly. I don't know if you've got the little sort of Tamagotchi-like pet activated in Claude, but it's just giving me little bits of feedback on how I'm prompting it. And I think I think Boris and team have done an amazing job, and they must have some super powerful models to help write Claude code themselves, but they're shipping stuff at just a rate, aren't they?
Yeah, there was it is a chap called Boris, isn't it? Yeah. There was a stat he said, and he said the oldest part of the Claude code base is like 2 months or something, because it's constantly being rewritten it's on the internet now, right? So we could go and check probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy, right? So I would love to be in a position where every part of our core code base was, the oldest bit was 2 months old. That would my OCD would be definitely placated by that. But yeah, interesting, right? Really interesting.
It makes it a bit difficult though. Sorry.
That's all right. No, just some real gems in that code base, like the fuck chart. The whole conversation with Boris said, basically someone analysed, they've got all this regex for like frustrations, and it's like if you swear or like do any of these things, it sends an is negative flag up. And Boris chimed in on Twitter and he's like, don't worry, we just use that and we put it on this wall and call it the fuck chart. And they just, every time they do a release, they make sure it goes down and not up.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's great.
That KPI, that is a brilliant business KPI, isn't it?
Yeah,
how much someone's swearing
less
at
frustration.
But it's amazing to me that like one of the best AI companies in the world is just using a simple regex to get customer sentiment out of the product.
Yeah. There's no natural language processing. It's literally regexing for FUCK on there.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if they have like waiting for the swear word you use just to like, is one
I would hope so.
Is one fuck the same as a piss? I don't know. It's like
it depends who says it as well, right? There's the context.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I think we probably should draw it to a close, because I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is happening outside of your door, Rio, on the pavements of Leeds. Maybe we call it there. But yes, thank you so much for your time, Jon. It's been really fascinating talking through everything you're working on, especially how you're sort of utilizing AI. And yeah, be sure to check out Pitch Hero. Is it pitchhero.com?
Yeah, pitchhero.com or pitchherogps.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, hit subscribe for future episodes. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.